I've been section hiking the Appalachian Trail for years with more than 700 miles completed. Today, I want to show you about how I go about planning and executing a section hike on the Appalachian Trail. First, I think about where I'll start and end my hike. The season, the weather, the proximity to my home are all factors that I think of. I'm sequentially section hiking the AT, so usually I just start where I left off last time. You can do that, or you can jump around to any section that you want. I always like to look at the AT interactive map when deciding which section to hike. That way I can find out what's nearby the trailhead. I'll link the map in the description. You can also find this info on the FarOut app. What's the FarOut app? I don't know how hikers did it before the FarOut app. We all have supercomputers in our pockets, and this has really become apparent on the trail. I have yet to meet another AT hiker on the trail that doesn't use FarOut. The best thing is that it doesn't require a cell phone signal to work, and it uses your phone's GPS to provide real-time location. So you can see how much of this mountain you still have to climb, how far you are from your campsite, where the unmarked campsites are, and real-time comments that are extremely valuable out there on the trail. The FarOut app is a must-have for section hikers. It's best to find locations to start and end your hike based on parking and road access. On the interactive map website, I turn on the parking icons under layers to find a good place to park. I like to find parking areas that are decent sized with multiple spots. So when you show up, chances are better that there will be a parking spot available. You can look at photos of the parking areas by clicking on the parking icon and clicking on the available photo links. This one looks like it might be too tight, but this one looks much better. I also check to make sure that the road to the parking spot is well traveled and doesn't need four-wheel drive or have limited access. In my opinion, one of the best investments you can make on an AT section hike is to have a good shuttle driver. A shuttle driver will pick you up from your end point and shuttle you back to the beginning point to where you can start your hike. Shuttles usually cost around $30 for a 25-mile trip and around $60 for a 50-mile trip. I like to shuttle at the start of my trip because there's no better feeling than to finish your hike and immediately be able to switch on the AC or do a quick clothing change, freshen up before hitting your favorite restaurant. You can find shuttle drivers for your section by looking at the whiteblaze.net shuttle PDF, which is updated every year, asking on the AT Section Hikers Facebook group, or even reading the comments for roads and parking lot icons on the FarOut app. Once I've identified my start or my end location, then I try and figure out how many miles a day I'd like to do. I usually do about 10 to 15 per day. But someone just starting out would probably be more comfortable with like 5 to 7 miles per day. On the interactive map website, turn on layers, AT shelters, and approximate mileage from the southern terminus. Here you can find the miles and plan for where you'll camp each night. You can do this on the FarOut app too if you want. For new AT section hikers, I would suggest camping near the AT shelters, since sometimes they offer conveniences like spring water access, bear boxes, and tent pads. There will also likely be other hikers camping at the AT shelters, so if you need help with anything, you can have people around. Also, if you just want to socialize and hang out, the AT shelters are great for that. Once I know where I'm going to camp each night, I go back and then I check water access, and you may have to tweak your planned camping locations based on the water access. To check water sources, the up-to-date comments on the FarOut app are extremely valuable. On the map, find where you'll start each day and look for water icons, which indicate springs and other water sources. I usually start with 1 liter of water each morning and stop at least once on the trail to fill up during the day. Then I like to camp near shelters since most shelters have a water source. To be best prepared, make sure you check the most up-to-date comments on the FarOut app for each water source, including for the shelters, because sometimes even the shelters don't have water and are dry. Don't forget to check the weather forecast, obviously, for your AT section hike. If you're like me, I obsessively check it for weeks before my trip. Definitely keep an eye on it. I like to use the website called atweather.org because you can check the weather for a specific shelter location. Sometimes on a longer trip, I'll stay at one of the many hiker hostels that are usually right off the trail. I can't tell you how good it feels to get a hot shower and a clean bed for the night in the middle of a longer trip. You can also resupply on food or fuel or even get a mail drop if you plan ahead. Bonus points if you can escape the rain. If you're planning on section hiking the entire Appalachian Trail, I would suggest that you invest in a good way to document your trips. This can make sure that you don't forget any sections that you actually did hike, or that you leave any gaps or anything like that. You can also leave notes about like things that you would do differently for your next trip. I like to use 3 methods to document my AT hiking mileage. I have the AT data book, and I highlight the edges on the pages that I've completed and make notes on the margin. I also use Google Sheets, and I have a physical map that I made where I mark off each section with red model paint. It's a great conversation piece to have in the home. If you're on the fence about doing an AT section hike, my advice to you would be just start. There's so many good resources out there. The community is amazing. I hope I see you on the AT.